Welcome to A4NB4Y.
Hey everybody, welcome to A4NB4Y. My name is Anthony.
I'm Ryan Fonzie.
And I'm Cameron Hagee.
In today's episode, we are going to cover the Dodongo's Cavern and Goron City. Alright, so we left off the episode where we were talking to the guard at the front gate in Kakariko Village. He was kind of being a little bit of a jerk, not letting us go by, until we gave him the letter that Princess Zelda had written out for us. The guy was kind of laughing at us and still kind of makes a short joke to us, kind of like, "You're a hero, really?" And he just opens the gate and lets us go, kind of like, is this kid for real? He's really going to Death Mountain?
Yeah, so the note that we had is like, please let Link through. He's on a mission to save Hyrule. He thinks it's a joke, but he goes along with it anyway. Also wants a mask from the Happy Mask shop and recommends that we get ourselves a nice sturdy metal shield because there's fire up on that mountain.
And that fire will burn our wooden shield to a crisp. So we need a metal one.
Just a note, he actually recommends you go to the shop back in Castletown to get the shield, and he tells you to let them know that he sent you. And if you do that, you actually get a discount on the shield and you can save some rupees. But if you want the ultimate discount on the shield, there's one hidden in the graveyard.
I was literally just going to say that.
Yeah, we didn't mention that last episode, but there's actually a free shield, so you can forget all the discount stuff if you really want.
We forgot to talk about that, yeah.
It's funny how the game gives you most of the items for free that you can buy if you don't know that.
And I went to grab that mask like as soon as I was able to, so I'm going to go into a little thing about the Happy Mask Salesman. So he's the Happy Mask Salesman, and his speech is very much so happy. He talks about everybody who's going to get this mask is going to be happy. You, yourself, if you sell all of my masks, you will be fulfilled, and you will be truly happy. And I'm like, bruh, you don't know what's going to make Link happy because he's selling your mask. He's just selling you a pile. But I did notice that he has a couple masks on the sides, and I don't know if it's like this in your guys' game, but on the 3DS game, it is definitely like this, where on both sides of the counter, kind of more towards the door you come into, there are masks lined up on the tables. And two of those masks stood out to me as being very not happy. Mm-hmm. One of them is a Gibdo mask, which is from Majora's Mask, and there's a lot of negative things attached to that, but we won't really get into that.
Yeah.
The other mask is just a straight-up sad human being.
There are Gibdos in this game.
Oh, I haven't got there, and I didn't remember.
Yeah, they show up later. But yeah, I mean, they're more prevalent in Majora's Mask. I think they're more of a story being in Majora's Mask. In this one, they're just inexplicable, like, re-dead clones.
Yeah, like stronger re-deads.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that Gibdo mask has negative connotation with it if you played Majora's Mask, and there's also just a very sad-looking human face, like just a plain old just sad face. And then on the right side, which is the side that has both the Gibdo and the sad person face, if you look behind the mirror, you can see a little bit of red on one. And I'm pretty sure that's a Mario mask, because there is a Mario mask in Majora's Mask when he's walking around and he's got the giant backpack on. So I'm pretty sure that is the Mario mask that's like hidden, and you can only see a little bit of it.
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean, I know that the Happy Mask shop in this game is really just about business. Like, none of the masks give you a whole lot. I mean, there are two that I think give abilities. One makes it so that the Stall Children of Hyrule Field don't show up, and then another one lets you talk to Sheikah Stones and get tips. Otherwise, everyone just kind of, every NPC that you talk to while wearing a mask will normally change their dialogue. But nothing that's too crazy, just more like, why are you wearing that mask, or why are you trying to scare me?
I thought one of them did something with Keese, like Keese don't attack you or something like that.
Maybe.
And I thought there was a bunny hood that raised your movement speed, or is that only Majora's Mask?
I think that's just Majora's Mask. I think the bunny hood just makes it so the Stall Children don't show up in this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's the stone mask. I think that one actually makes it so Keese don't attack you.
The stone mask?
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if the stone mask is in this one, but maybe. Do we want to talk about the 4 characters that you can sell masks to, or is that not? I mean, we can do it all right now if you really wanted to. It is available to you at this part of the game.
I don't know any of it, so it's up to you.
Gotcha. I'll breeze through it because again, it doesn't do a whole lot for Link other than fill his wallet, really. So the first mask that you get is the Keaton mask, and it goes to this guard who says it's for his son, but he ends up wearing it the whole rest of the game. You give it to him, and he immediately puts it on and acts like he doesn't know what it is, but clearly, like, he's the actual fan, not his kid. Which is kind of funny. The second one is the Skull mask, and this one you can take back to the Skull Children in the Lost Woods, and one of them will actually buy it from you, but they'll pay half as much as it's worth, so you actually lose out on that. Link has to make up the difference from his own pocket. So then the next one, I forget the name of it, but it's something along the lines of Scary Mask or Spooky Mask or something like that.
Yeah, Spooky Mask.
And you can take it to the kid in the graveyard who wants to be just like Dompe, who is upset that his own face isn't as heart pounding or as manly as Dompe's. So you give that to him, and he'll take it. It's actually a mask. It's actually a Re-Dead mask. If you wear the mask and talk to Dompe, which I did just by chance, I thought maybe he would want it. He kind of says like, "Do you know what that mask is of?" And you're still wearing it. Okay. he literally calls you out for wearing a Re-Dead mask. It's kind of funny. But yeah, you sell it to the kid and he's all about it. He's like, oh yeah, this will make me even more scary than Dompe. It's great. And then the last one that you can sell is the Bunny Hood. And this one, there's actually a running man that later in the game you can challenge to a race, but when you're a kid, you really can't. But once you get the mask, you go out into Hyrule Field, and this NPC will be there when otherwise he wouldn't. I believe you actually have to have the mask on your person for him to be out in the field. And he will run constantly. I think he doesn't stop unless it's nighttime out. And that's part of why the mask lets you go without there being stall children, is because you're supposed to chase this man down at night. You do, and he'll buy it from you for infinite money. So it kind of goes like the soldier pays the right price, the Skull Kid pays half price, the kid in the graveyard pays the whole price, and it's like one of the more expensive masks, so it's surprising that he can do that. And then the guy out in the field will just fill your wallet. So you really don't want to do it right now. You don't want to do that until you have a relatively empty Giant's wallet to work with, because he'll fill it right up to 500. But other than that, I mean, that's how you get all the masks. After that, you get the Mask of Truth, which is like the real reward that lets you talk to the Gossip Stones. You get three other masks. There's like a Gerudo mask, a Goron mask, and a Zora mask, but none of them do anything really. So they're just fun to have.
Yeah, and I did confirm it just now. So it's the Skull Mask. It keeps Keese from attacking you. If you're someone like me and you struggle to deal with Keese, no matter how good you are at this game, definitely keep it for a little bit, at least for Dodongo's Cavern.
Yeah, that seems pretty useful, actually.
Yeah, I just struggle with them. I don't know why.
No, I get it. Especially ice ones. Ice ones always get me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually almost died to a fire Keese in Dodongo's Cavern.
Yeah, this is an enemy that we're going to be talking about in a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
You haven't seen them yet.
Cool. So if there's nothing else we want to talk about with the city or anything like that, because I know there's a few other mini games, but we can get to those another time. We can start our way up Death Mountain.
So here we find our first enemy, and as we get into Death Mountain, you hear the epic Death Mountain music coming up, and right on that slope, we see the first enemy on Death Mountain called Tektites, and Tektites are little one-eyed mites, or you can probably call them spiders, but yeah, they are pretty easy to kill, and if you actually have the Hylian shield, they're almost useless because you just shield duck like a turtle, and they can't hurt you at all. But something I did find on the internet with Tektites, if you actually Google Tektites, Zelda's not the first thing that comes up. This thing's a real name. It's a gravel-sized meteor deposit from space that has crashed onto the Earth with a exploding meteor. And yeah, those are called tektites. And so it makes me wonder, like, why did they name this spider-like thing? I mean, this thing's been in every Zelda game thus far, so this is not a new enemy. And
Are they usually around the mountains where there are falling rocks?
well, they're usually like in abandoned places that meteors would generally fall without, people picking them up. So when they're found, they're usually mountains, lakes, which that's kind of coincidentally where they actually spawn in the game. But it also makes me think maybe they're trying to go with like a celestial route with these monsters. Like maybe they're not from Hyrule.
Oh, yeah. My thought was maybe the mountain tosses a rock down and it smashes, and like it's kind of a play on that. Like it's not really a meteor, it's a rock from the volcano, but it causes the same thing, I don't know, maybe there's a spider in it and that's the tektite or something. I don't know. It's all guesswork now.
Yeah, but it's just weird that it's like that's the name they went with was generally Nintendo, I feel like they like to name things not really conventionally. They like to have a meaning behind it, so that's what I always look for in the names. But yeah, other than that, they're a pretty easy monster, and the color changes based on the environment. So here we got orangish red ones for the mountain, the fire, power, which is a theme we have here. There's blue ones, which you might not have seen yet if you haven't gone to Lake Hylia.
Right.
And they're sort of like pond skaters. That's them in a nutshell. There's not much to them.
Yeah, they jump. They look like they should do more than jump, but they just jump.
Yeah.
Cool. So on the way up the mountain, the first major thing we'll see is a giant cracked up rock with a sign in front of it and our first Goron that we meet. You talk to him, he says, "Hey, I'm a Goron." It's like literally the first thing he says is explains like I'm one of the rock eating Gorons that live on this mountain. And he kind of shares with you that this cave is sealed up, that it was a food supply, and that if you want more Goron gossip, you can head up to the city. So if you make your way that way, there's another Goron that is kind of standing. I think he's next to another sign. He's a little ways away from it, but he'll tell you that there's a fairy fountain up on top of the mountain that she's said to be very beautiful, and asks you if you want to see her. And then there's another Goron who is rolling down the mountain and explodes when he comes to a stop. And there is nothing you can do to shield against this Goron. You really need to just stand out of the way. Yeah. I tried the first time to see what would happen, and Link gets sent flying. I think he can actually knock you off the mountain too if you're standing too close to the edge. And it'll start you back at Kakariko.
It happened to me.
So
it happened to me.
I want to add that that first Goron that's sitting outside of the cave with the giant rock, the first time you talk to him and no other time, he tells you that a bunch of Dodongos showed up one day and that's why they can't get into the cave. And he also tells you that a man from the desert, if we haven't heard that one before, was who put the rock there in the first place and completely closed it up.
Yeah, he said he uses magic to seal the entrance.
Yeah, so we know that the same person that was messing around with the forest is also messing around with the mountain.
And the thing with these Gorons is there's sort of a selfish race because they eat rocks. So we're on a giant mountain with nothing but rocks, right? And they're starving. They're basically dying because this rock is blocking their food supply. But they could eat any rock, right? Well, there are top sirloin rocks in this cave, the best of the best, and they don't want to eat just no regular rock, right? They want the best of the best rocks. So it's like, you think as a race, you guys could just, I don't know, maybe survive and just eat the regular rocks for a little bit till Link comes in?
Yeah.
Nah, they just completely starve to death crying that they can't get their gourmet rocks.
Right. Yeah. They do say that the most nutritious and delicious rocks are in the cavern. But that seems like ancient history. So I don't know if it's actually been a long time or if they're all being dramatic. I get the feeling that these are drama filled creatures here.
I think they're pretty drama filled.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Gorons is that they're a pretty simple creature. Like they're clearly strong. Like they're half made of rock. And they're all beastly. They roll around. I mean, one of the first ones you meet comes to an explosion as he crashes to the bottom of the mountain. If you actually wait till he's done with that, you can talk to him. And his line, and I want to read this just because it's preposterous, but I love it. He says, "I wish I could roll down the mountain like a rock with a bomb flower and boom. If I could do that with a bomb flower, I could become a real man." Like, that's his whole line. So, like, it's a rite of passage, I guess, for these Gorons to roll down the mountain with a bomb and explode at the end. And that's how they, I guess, like, now you're a Goron man for doing that. And that, I thought that's what he did because he explodes at the end of his roll, but I guess not, because he still wishes he could do it. So I don't know.
I think there's a bomb flower actually there. Like, I think he runs into a bomb flower and it doesn't respawn. But if you actually go there a different way, you can actually see the bomb flower there. Or at least like the petals of where one once was.
Gotcha. So I guess my point is, like, these guys, like, they're no joke when it comes to strength. And I mean, this plays right back into our like Din, right? Like the goddess of power. She's themed red. This whole mountain's kind of shaded red. The Goron stone that we're after, the sacred gem that they have is red. They're very much a powerful species. They are not so much a wise or courageous species. And part of that is this whole issue with the best rocks being from the cavern and not being willing to eat another rock. So that's kind of the predicament they're in. They're all kind of hungry. They're all kind of depressed.
If you could call it a predicament.
And they're all hungry and depressed because they refuse to eat regular rocks. So yeah, so that's kind of the setting. That's kind of the stage setting. I think the first Goron you talk to when you actually enter Goron City gives you most of that story on his own if you didn't talk to anybody else.
Yeah, so I think that's all the Gorons on the outside of the city, correct?
Well, there's the one on the edge telling you about the bomb flowers and that they like only grow on mountains, I think, but he's not really that important right now.
They only grow in the shade.
Oh yeah, they're only supposed to grow where the sun doesn't reach much, which is like why they say Dodongo's Cavern's full of them, but a couple rare ones do sprout on the outside, and he's standing next to a couple of them.
Yeah. So I mean, we head into the city.
And we come to the best music, or if not, one of the best songs in the game, arguably.
Yeah, it is pretty great. They have like this cool tribal cave going on, and the music kind of matches it. Yeah, I mean, if you look in the center, they have a big pot in the center that's got like 3 Goron faces on it. And directly above that, there's 3 ropes leading into like a floating platform. And if you go out there, there's a Goron sitting there who kind of asks you if you're coming out to eat the red rock that was normally there. He says it looks delicious, but like he thought maybe he could just give it a little taste. Clearly, he was going to come and eat that rock, but
yes.
Luckily, the big boss took it away before anybody could come and do that. So it's not there.
Yeah, multiple of the Gorons talk about how they wish they could eat that rock.
And it's cool because like if you read what some of the other Gorons share, that was the original holding place of the red rock, because the red rock, like I guess, was the power source for the lights in Goron City, and all the lights in Goron City are torches. So this is like the sacred gem of fire, and I guess it kept the torches lit inside the cavern, which is kind of cool. So it was like, that's kind of like the plug-in spot for it, and it's taken away now because obviously, like, you don't have your other rocks to eat. It's pretty much your second best option. So it's hidden away. I mean, also Ganondorf was clearly kind of after it, so it was good to hide it either way.
Ganondorf's like, man, that rock's fire. I'm getting that.
Oh man. So you do a little bit of exploring. There's some other Goron. Oh, the one Goron I did want to bring up as well. There's one that says we don't get many visitors way up here, asks where you're from, and then says, the forest? What's a forest? Trees and plants? Now I'm even more confused. So like, he has too many responses about things that he wouldn't know about for me to let this go. Like Link can talk. I'm pretty sure the idea, like we always make jokes about how Link, like, all he can do is kind of yell as he rolls and jumps and stuff, but he does get asked questions, and people do respond as if he responded. I really think that the game like only does this when the response would be so obvious, or like anybody would respond the same way, because they really want you to project yourself onto him. So for the most part, you never hear his voice. You never hear him actually say anything. but that's not because he can't talk. It's because, you know, they want you to feel like you are Link. So, you know, if they take his voice away, it's the same reason that Keanu Reeves is such a good action movie actor. It's because he doesn't like make a lot of facial expressions. So you kind of feel like you can put your own expressions on him.
It's almost like the old Dora the Explorer trope where she asks you a question and then like you kind of fill in your response. Like no one says anything and then she responds to what you might have said, you know?
Yeah.
Same idea there. I hate that I just used Dora as an example, but same idea.
Same idea. You are part of it. You're part of this game. You're part of this show. And it's effective. But yeah, I just want to make that point of Link can talk. There's just too much there for me to deny it. Yeah. So you get to the bottom of this. You've heard from a couple Gorons that Big Brother has locked himself up in his room, saying, "I'll wait for the royal family's messenger," which, because you have Zelda's Lullaby, makes that you. So you go, you find this carpet that's plush under your feet. Feels real. I guess it feels plush under your feet. It's a soft carpet for guests. And it's got Triforces all over it. So at least I believe it's Triforces. It could have been something else, but you go up to it, you play Zelda's Lullaby, and the door opens to get into Darunia's room. And Darunia is jacked to the max. He's a boulder. He's a rock, man. Literally.
Big Daddy Darunia.
And he's mad. You talk to him, and the first thing he's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I know he knows the royal family song, but he's mad because you're just a kid." One line that kind of stuck out to me is, "Has Darunia, the big boss of the Gorons, really lost so much status to be treated like this by his sworn brother, the king?" Which is funny because not a lot of people get the title sworn brother with the Gorons. They're pretty difficult to get through to. So the fact that the king has...
You got to do something pretty grand.
Yeah, for the king to have that relationship with the Gorons, like, I mean, honestly, Darunia could have just been impressed that he was a king, but I don't think that's the case. I think he must have done something to get that title, and it never really explains that, which is kind of upsetting because, like, what that would imply, he's waiting for the royal family's messenger. What that would imply is that he reached out for help, that he sent somebody to the royal family, or he expected that they would know what kind of situation they were in as a neighboring kingdom, I guess you could call it. And he hasn't received any actual help from them. You're the first person that's come by with the royal family's mark, and he is not what he wanted. Link is not what Darunia wanted, which is upsetting. I mean, I know that Ganondorf is currently at the kingdom, so that might have something to do with it. Like, he might be acting like everything's fine with the Gorons, or, you know, or maybe the king just thinks they're being dramatic again, because that seems to be how they are.
Or maybe, like, the king just can't, doesn't have time or can't go for help because they're currently preoccupied with the whole Ganondorf situation, so they can't actually go out to help the Gorons, send anybody. Like, all the guards are stuck at the castle, helping there.
It's possible. I don't want to like dunk on the king too hard, but I know that Zelda also had, like, her prophetic dream. One of the lines that she had when she told us about it was that, she actually told her dad about it, and he just straight up didn't believe her. So he warned her about Ganondorf, and he was like, "Oh no, Ganondorf's fine." So, like, he seems to be, like, keeping up appearances without actually dealing with any of Hyrule's problems or threats. Like, I don't think he actually vetted Ganondorf at all. He's just like, "Oh yes, this king of the bandit group out in the desert, like, he's definitely allied with us. This is totally cool." And the Gorons, yeah, they're fine.
Makes sense.
Yeah, he cares about our interest.
Yeah. So the king's really not, I mean, I'm not super impressed with it. You don't ever see him, you don't ever talk to him, so you don't really know what's going on in his life. But you know that he's not helping.
No, he's pretty much a failure of a king as far as I can tell.
So he's angry. He tells you to, like, Darunia's angry, he tells you to get out of his place. He's in a bad mood. He kind of lists off all the problems that you've been hearing since you arrived. Ancient creatures have infested the cavern, which are the Dodongos. It's funny, they named it Dodongo's Cavern after these ancient creatures. Never expected them to come back, I guess. And now they're an infestation. And they've had a poor harvest of their special crop, which is the bomb flowers. And then there's starvation and hunger because of the rock shortage, which I think we've talked to the ground. Like, it isn't real. There is no rock shortage. It's just a tasty rock shortage.
Yeah.
And then he ends saying, but this is a Goron problem. We don't need any help from strangers. So this is kind of the difference between a sworn brother and a stranger, right? Like, no help from you. Get out of here. So you leave. There's a couple things you can do in the city. Mostly involves lighting torches. Yeah. Did either of you guys take the time to play the basketball game that's in this city?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I did. And one of the Gorons actually tells you the secret we went over in the Deku tree, if you want to call it a secret, where you can put your Deku stick away while it's on fire and you get to save the stick and reuse it again. He actually straight up tells you that.
Yeah.
And then asks you to relight the torches for him. When you relight all of the torches that aren't like the super thick ones, the ones that are more twiggy and sticky, it starts the big vase in the middle of the room that Fonzie was talking about with the Gorons on it, and it starts spinning in a circle. And if you get a bomb into it 3 times, you get a red rupee worth 20, you get a blue rupee worth 5, and you get a heart piece.
Yeah, which is great, getting the heart piece. It is a game of chance. Every time you throw a bomb in, it can land on a different face. If it's the angry face, you don't get anything. I think I remember this thing speeding up, but maybe I'm just imagining that.
It does speed up, yeah.
If you get the neutral face, I think you get a couple rupees, but not much. And then you get the happy face, you get like the jackpot reward. Yeah, I think one of the Gorons even says when all the torches are lit on this bottom floor, the place gets really lively or something like that. And that might be a later line, but it's kind of funny because if you light all the torches on the bottom floor and that's what starts the vase, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to win this if you wait until you have the bomb bag and you can just throw bombs at it at will.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely just tried to grab a bomb flower and took me some time to get the timing right and to get the right face to show up on the Goron. Like, I remember sinking maybe 15 of these things before I got the happy face, and I was really upset about that.
Oh, wow. I got it on my 3rd, and I didn't even realize what I was looking for. I just thought, I had to do it 3 times to get it.
I still haven't done it yet. I got the rupees and then was like, all right, off to the next place. But simultaneously, there's also a big unit of a Goron rolling around on, I believe, the 2nd level.
Yeah.
And if you stop him anywhere on that track where he rolls around on that 2nd level, he'll just kind of get up and be like, hey, I'm rolling over here. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But if you actually stop him over by the sign, which is on the back side, it's sort of like in a little divot of a cave.
Right.
You actually stop him over there. I think you probably need the bomb bag because I don't think you can actually get a bomb over there.
You do.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you do. I tried to get a bomb all the way over there and I could not.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's the trick of it, to make sure you have the bomb bag, because that's what he does. He'll upgrade your bomb bag for you. But he won't do that until you actually have a bomb bag to upgrade. It's the same thing with the Bombachu bowling, because if you do that, you can get another bomb bag upgrade. Problem being, you can't actually do Bombachu bowling, I don't think, until you've gotten the bomb bag, the first one. So that's not open yet. That's back in Hyrule Castletown, though. So there's the big guy rolling around, and right now he's just the rock and roller Goron.
The unit.
And he doesn't help you at all right now, but he is a bit of a challenge if you want to try to hit him. Still can't get into the cavern. The big boss doesn't want our help.
The big boss.
So we talk to a couple of the Gorons again, and one of them will actually say that I think it's even might be the one right outside his room. Says that he's in a bad mood, like he'll just get angry with you. It's hard to talk to him about anything right now, but I do know his secret. He loves music, and he used to always listen to the music of the forest. Conveniently, there is an entryway to the forest in this city, and this is where I normally wait to go to the Lost Woods until I have this path, because it makes it really convenient, and there's a lot to do there, and it takes you right into the Lost Woods from Goron City. So yeah, I know in our first episode we talked a bit about the Lost Woods already, but this is we go on our way to find this music for the big boss.
Yeah, this is where it's actually mandatory to go into the forest. the Lost Forest.
Yeah, like if you haven't done it already, you have to go now. The story won't go forward without it. So we go to the forest. I think, do we find Gabora here first, or is he like later?
Yes. I do believe he's waiting at the first entrance to the woods. I do believe. I think we also each have, once you see the woods, there are 4 entrances on each side mostly, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, depending on where you're at. And they're all covered in black. And I think we each have a way to get through this, a different way to get through this. Sort of a maze, a labyrinth, if you can call it. And so does anyone want to say what their way is first, like their secret technique, I guess you can say?
I mean, I guess I'll just bust right through that question a little bit. If you listen to Gabora, he tells you how to do it. When you first see him, you come out of Goron City, and what he tells you is that there's a way through here to go to the Sacred Forest Meadow. And he asks you if you hear the music that's currently playing, which is just like all of Lost Woods. It's all the same music. It's all Saria's song. And he says you should listen out for this music also. So at least this time, this works. In future times, it doesn't. You have to remember the pattern if you want to go back. But to get to the Sacred Forest Meadow the first time, if you stand in front of any of the doorways, the song will get louder. If you stand in front of ones that aren't the right way, the music will actually cut out. Also, in the N64 version, which we're playing the port of, if you stand close enough to a doorway, it'll actually, like, you can just see through it. Like the darkness that's in every like path you can choose actually starts to like fade in when you get close to it. And the wrong path typically won't until the very last one. So that's how I got through it, by listening to the music.
So I got through, actually, I think a tad bit easier than that. If you stand like anywhere in the middle of the room, all the wrong doors are white. They're shrouded in white, and the correct door is just black. So it's pretty visible too. Like if you look at the outside of the door, it's like visibly like a white glare is coming through the door. It's really hard to miss it. And then the actual right way is just a straight black door, like a straight black shadow. So you can just walk through there. It took me like probably like 20 seconds, just doot, going through it.
Really?
Like you don't have to, yeah.
I feel like that's not intentional. Like, I don't think that's what they wanted to happen.
Yeah, that's probably not.
It's sort of like a light at the end of the tunnel look. Like if you like, like a train tunnel, like the light at the end of the tunnel. So it sort of looks like that. And then the right door is just black. And it's so easy to just like look for that and just go through. And I don't know, I never noticed it before until this run. And I don't know if it's on the 3DS version that you're playing, Cam. But yeah, it's definitely noticeable on the original.
I didn't check for that. And I actually didn't use either of the tricks that you guys talked about. I just went the old-fashioned way.
You just guess and tested, my man.
Yeah, it was trial and error the whole time. I remembered the first like 4 from way back in the day because I still remember that somehow. And then after that, I was just like, let's try this way. Oh, nope, let's try this way. I also wanted to see if there were any secrets because there are some areas you can load into that aren't the forest meadow, and I wanted to check out every single individual entrance.
Yeah, because using the methods that me and Fonz talked about, you probably won't find the different areas that you can go to that aren't the Sacred Forest Meadow.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the stand close to the door and see if the room lights up on the other side, that method will get you to all the other extra places. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that works on the 3DS either. Like, I don't know if they fixed that. But I will say, whenever there's an entrance to another area, like when you see the Zora's Domain entrance or the Goron City entrance, you just go left. I know that much. So I know we actually talked about some of those extra places already in previous episodes. So there's the one with the business scrubs and the forest stage. Turns out that forest stage is in fact for happy masks. 2 of the masks will get you an upgraded seed bag and an upgraded, I guess, Deku stick pouch or whatever they call it that you use to hold them. And the other masks will either get you, I guess, applause, or it gets you shot at, or everyone will just, all the Deku shrubs will just kind of stare at you. Also, there are Deku shrubs outside of the Deku tree. So A bit I said about that in episode 1 wasn't quite accurate, but yeah, I will say that they're the most reasonable of the scrubs, I guess. I mean, the business scrubs are there for business, but the Deku scrubs tend to be forest spirit type beings that I guess are more interactive, I should say. But yeah, so there's a couple of those there. If you go back to the very start of the woods, there's a target practice, like where you can use your slingshot, you shoot the center of the target 3 times, and they give you an upgraded seed pouch. And then there's a bunch of skull children. Well, there's 3 of them. 2 of them are together. The other one's alone.
I'm not exactly sure the pathing to get to them, but yeah, the skull children, they're sort of, if you were to describe in a book a forest kid and the appearance of like a kid who lives in the forest that's like a scarecrow kid, like this is the exact appearance that they're orange, they're full of like straw with like tribal looks to them, and I think they got like weird elf shoes, and they're sort of always either playing an instrument or dancing.
Yeah, they're very musical.
And they also make like a weird laugh noise when you come up to them too, I think.
Yeah.
Or is that just
they all play music. So it's really right at the start of the woods if you turn left or right. And not at the start if you come from Goron City. The start if you were to come from Kokiri Forest, or if you get lost. It'll start you back in this room. And the first room you're in, if you go left, there's a single skull kid, and he wants to hear you play Saria's song. This is the skull kid that you can sell the mask to, the skull mask if you have it. If you play the song, he'll give you a heart piece. And this one you can actually lock onto as well and talk to Navi, and she makes the comment, "Is this what happens to kids who get lost in the forest?" Basically implying that this is the first creature I guess we've come across that is something that was lost in the Lost Woods. I think I mentioned before, the Lost Woods are known for taking people, and this is what happens to kids. They make that distinction later on that something else happens to adults. If you actually continue through this room, there's a business scrub who will sell you another Deku Stick upgrade. So all of the Deku Stick and Deku Seed upgrades are in this forest. And if at that starting room that we talked about, if you go right, that's where the slingshot target practice is. And if you go down a ladder, you can do a Simon Says game with 2 other skull kids. And that's ultimately for a heart piece. So all the skull kids are musical. They all like music. And they all just kind of spend their days dancing around in the woods.
Yeah, there's not much else to them, to be honest.
Doesn't sound so bad.
What?
I said, doesn't sound so bad. I mean, you get lost in the evil Lost Woods, and I mean, you just end up playing music and dancing around for all of eternity. It could be worse.
I guess. So if you do any of the tricks or you do the guess and test and you make your way through, are there any other big rooms of interest that you guys want to talk about other than the business scrub room?
No, I was just going to talk about the Simon Says game. I was going to say how much of a hard time I had with it.
So we get through to the Sacred Forest Meadow that Kabura told you about. This is the place where you fight a Wolfos, and then you go through a maze of mad scrubs who don't stop to talk to you, who don't interact with you. They just want to fight you until you start fighting them, and then they run away.
So this is the distinction that I think we made in the first episode, where the scrubs in the tree, they were friendly. They talked to you. They had a friendly demeanor. I mean, yeah, the brothers did attack you at first until you guessed their correct order.
Yeah.
But these scrubs, not being in the Deku tree, are mad scrubs. They're just, they attack you on sight. They don't talk to you, nothing.
Right. Yeah. So you make your way through this maze of scrubs, and you get to the end, which is the actual, like, the heart of the Sacred Forest Meadow, which later we'll find out is the actual entrance to the Forest Temple as well. And here, in this moment, Saria is there, and she's playing music on the fairy ocarina that she still has. So if you go up to her, I think it actually triggers a cutscene where she says that she's been waiting for you, that this is the Sacred Forest Meadow. It's her secret place. This place will be very important for both of us someday. That's what she feels. And that if you play an ocarina there, you can talk to the spirits in the forest. So then she teaches you Saria song, which is aside from being a Goron club banger, also allows you to communicate with Saria at any point. And sometimes that's useful to do. Sometimes she'll give you hints as to what you should be working towards, what your next goal should be. And sometimes it's just kind of like, you keep at it. So yeah, varying degrees of usefulness, and you never really know when to play it. But it's a cool song nonetheless. It gets you a heart piece at least. I know that much. And it's your first, if you didn't get the Sun Song, which we did. Otherwise it's your first magical song on the ocarina, I believe, aside from, Zelda's Lullaby hasn't been really shown to be magical yet. It's just kind of a password so far. So yeah, it's our first quote unquote magical song.
Yep, and once we have that song, we can guess what the banger that Darunia wants to listen to might be. So then we skedaddle our way back onto Goron City, unless there was something we missed in Lost Woods.
No, I think we covered everything.
I don't think we missed anything. Yeah, and you come out of here, and on your way back, Kabora shows up again, and it's like, "Have you learned? Sorry, I teach you the song. Oh, great, it's magical. Bunch of songs you should memorize them." And kind of flies off. So it's like, all right, thanks.
There is a great fairy fountain actually before you get to Saria in the sort of maze in the Sacred Forest Meadow, and if you actually have a bottle, you can capture a fairy in there for what's coming next.
Right.
Basically.
Are those ones called Great Fairy Fountains? I thought Great Fairy Fountains had a Great Fairy, and just Fairy Fountains had like a swarm of fairies.
Well, then it's just a fairy. Yeah, it's just a regular fairy fountain then. But yeah, so you get one with a bottle, and it's useful for what's coming up and the first enemy in the dungeon that we're about to go into after Darunia.
Yeah, eventually you get a song. One of the magical songs basically transports you to that Sacred Forest Meadow where Saria is. And so I always use that to kind of farm fairies later on in the game. Just teleport right next to a fairy fountain basically, and then it's a real quick trip in. So it's very convenient, I'll say. So yeah, we can head back to Goron City. If you play any other song that's not Saria's song to Darunia, he'll kind of start to dance and then be like, "Nah, forget it. It's not really the kind of tune I'm looking for.
I'm not feeling it."
It's not the banger he wanted.
Yeah, but if you play Saria's song, you get what's probably one of the best cutscenes in the game. He goes off. He breaks it down. He becomes the hype man for the song and just goes wild in this room. I love some of the camera angles they decided to like pop in there. He has his own Saria song music video, and it's great. And what's really nice is you can do it as many times as you want, whenever you want. So if you're ever feeling down in this game, just go back to Darunia and play him Saria's song, and you can watch it all over again. It's nice. So this kind of helps ease his anger. This was just what he needed to kind of lift his spirits back up. And so he decides that he's going to give you a chance to prove yourself. He says, show that you're a man and go get rid of these. Go take care of Dodongo's cavern, basically, like defeat all the Dodongos. I don't know if he tells you outright to open it back up, but he also does give you the Goron bracelet. He specifically mentions that he's not giving it to you in return for anything, but he just wants to give it to you anyway. So yeah, you get the ability to pick the special crop, which is funny that they call it that. Like, they don't ever just say bomb flowers. They always are like the Goron special crop. It's silly because they don't eat it. They don't really use it for anything. Like, they just know it's there and they try to make sure it keeps growing. I think the biggest clue is that it's a mining flower. So they probably just use it to dig deeper into the cavern and to get their rocks, really. So it's more of a tool than a crop, but yeah, that's how they all refer to it.
True. And then at this point, now that we have the bracelets and we can lift the special crop, we can do the things that we were talking about before, like with the pot that's spinning and stopping the guy on the second floor who is rolling around the absolute unit. But in order to continue where we're actually going with this, we go back outside of the city to the guy who is standing to the right of the entrance to the city that I talked about earlier, next to a couple of the rare flowers that grow outside of dark areas like caves. and we could pick one of those flowers up, and we could give it a little yeet right all the way down the whole mountain right to where the giant rock is that we have to get through. And it's kind of funny that you brought up that they call it a mining flower and they don't think about using it themselves to get rid of that rock.
Yeah, I think that goes back to them not being a very wise group.
Yeah, no, not at all, actually.
Yeah. So, yep, I think you blow it up. And I think if you even talk to that Goron right there, he's like, oh, man, why didn't we think of that? Or like, we could have just done that this whole time. Like somebody makes that comment.
Yeah, he does say that. It's either the one right outside of the cave itself or the one next to the flower that you threw or the bomb that you threw. But yeah, one of them's like, oh, we should have done that. Oh, well.
Yeah. It's funny because you think that like these Gorons wouldn't really have an issue with the Dongos for the most part because from what I can tell, if they're eating rocks out of this cavern, then they're heat resistant. And the only thing the Dongos really have is their fire breath, I guess. They do explode if you kill them, so maybe don't kill them if you're worried about that. But the fire breath I don't think would be an issue for a Goron. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of my original thoughts.
And they're pretty slow too, so I don't think their big jaws would be too much of a hassle.
Yeah. So you open it up, you go inside. This is the Dongo's cavern. And it has a giant what appears to be a dinosaur of some kind, skull up at the front of the room, and its rib cage kind of lining the sides. But I guess what might even be more striking at this point is that there's lava all around the ground, and we are in our first fire-themed dungeon. Power-themed, you might say, based on what we know about anything that is red and fire in this game. So yeah, so this one, power is not a super deep subject. I really don't have a lot to share about it, but what I do know is that in this dungeon is our first use of a powerful item, I should say. Like, that's strictly about that. Like a bomb, it's literally just an object of power. You place it somewhere, it sends forces in all directions and makes things happen. So it's a little bit uncontrolled, a little bit untamed. Like it's not very well directed or aimed, but it's that rhymed way too well. And it's just there. It's power. This is Link's first experience with power.
Yeah, and this whole dungeon is absolutely riddled with powerful enemies. I think the first enemies in the game actually that might give you trouble. And I didn't have trouble in this game yet up until this point. We have fire keys, which are absolutely annoying, and I wish the game didn't have them. And then there's little baby Dodongos, which can swarm you and alone don't stand much of a chance. And then we have the nightmare fuel standing in the middle of the first room that we actually see with the giant dinosaur head, and it's a Beamos. And yeah, it's nightmare fuel. It's got a nose, weird teeth that are rotting, and a giant eyeball.
Yeah.
And sort of reminds me of, I guess previously, the Guardians in Breath of the Wild. If you guys have played that game first, and this is your first, the playstyle is kind of similar with shooting its eyeball. But yeah, it's scary. It is scary.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a wood stove or something, right? Like one of those like round,
yeah, like the olden ones,
like cast iron olden wood stove, except instead of having a hearth, like an actual gate on the front for you to have your cozy fire in, it has it just has a face. It has like the bottom half of a face. It's got like the nose and mouth, and then its eye is like up on the top of the chimney almost. And it spins around and it shoots lasers at you. So yeah, I would agree. Nightmare fuel. It's definitely like, the eye only looks one direction, so you can kind of sneak around them as they turn. But they are not fun to look at, and they're not fun to be around.
No, they're not. And this whole dungeon is just riddled with things that you do not want to be around or fight. Like we have Armos, which are moving statues, which are strong and explode. So yeah, it's just to continue with the power theme with this whole area. This whole dungeon is just filled with powerful enemies for the first time that we've seen.
Yeah, just about everything except for the Keese and the Lizalfos, which we'll get to, explode when you kill them.
Mm-hmm.
So like nothing is safe. Like you think normally you defeat an enemy and that's it, you're done. No, you defeat enemies in this place and they're gonna explode. Like you can't just stand around them after you're done.
Yeah, not only are they going to explode, but in order to even beat them, you have to make them go boom. Like Beamos are invincible. Armos are invincible. The only way that you can hurt them is with bombs. Again, laying credence to the whole power thing. Without the like actual
Boom boom.
What would you call it? The physical manifestation of power that Link is getting right now being the bombs. Without that, you can't touch these things.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have any other tools that'll work.
Side note, don't bring the Deku shield, the wooden shield, into this place. Make sure you guys get the Hylian shield before this, because you're gonna lose your shield if you bring that in there.
Yeah, actually, up until this point, you can have the other shield, but right when you set foot into this place, that's where your wooden shield is in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can buy more wooden shields in this place, but that's foolish. Don't do that.
It's true, you can.
Unless you really love it. Just no.
Yeah, I mean, if you really don't want the Hylian shield, just put your Deku shield away. Go through it with the sword and no shield. I mean, you might as well at that point, because a lot of the things that you got to fight, I mean, some of them you can block with a shield effectively, but a lot of them, like you're initiating, you're throwing bombs at, and I mean, yeah, I would recommend getting the Hylian shield. Honestly, that you really should have it by the time you get here. That's just my opinion.
No, I would agree. And the only enemy that I ended up even needing to block at all were Lizalfos. And I'm pretty sure that Lizalfos don't even, like, they don't burn your shield. So I think I would have been fine going through it with a Deku shield outside of getting hit by 2 fire keys, which even if you're not blocking, the fire keys will immediately burn your shield up if they hit you.
Yeah. So I guess set pieces, right? Because that's kind of how we want to take on dungeons other than the enemies. I mean,
yeah.
I would consider the Lizalfos to be a pretty major one.
And I was going to talk about that room too. Did you guys actually take a look around that room?
The first room?
It is beautiful. No, I'm sorry. The room with the Lizalfos.
No.
You guys didn't?
I mean, I've seen the room, but I can't say I looked around it specifically.
So the room is actually connected. Both mini-boss Lizalfos fights that you encounter, the rooms are both connected. One is above the other. One is above a lava waterfall. And I just thought it was really cool that they were both connected. It's sort of like their home in the dungeon. And it's just a huge room. And I didn't really pay attention that they were connected with a lava waterfall. There's like platforms. And even the beginning room that you step foot into is super gorgeous. So they really put in work with this this dungeon here and the way it looked.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the connection's pretty cool. When you fight the second one and then you can look down into the first one, Sabrina, I think that's a pretty cool moment. I accidentally fell down into it at one point trying to get those hearts that they put out there. That wasn't fun because that cost me a good clip of time just circling back through the whole dungeon again. But it's a cool fight, too. I mean, I don't think we've actually talked about what the Lizalfos are yet, have we?
They sort of look like the lizards in Donkey Kong 64, which actually came out before this. I'm pretty sure it's like almost the same character model. And they just sort of have a little dagger dirk that they carry around with you. Or with them, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're bipedal. They're like lizard knights, right? They hop around and they just like try to do overhead slashes at you with their little swords. So yeah, nothing major. They make cool meep meep sounds when they're fighting you. They usually come at you one at a time, which is very convenient. Yeah, no, it's great.
They sort of move similar to the Wolfos, actually. A play style with the bait and switch where you block and then attack.
Yeah.
That's how you play them.
Yeah. You can also, they can be frozen with Deku Nuts too, which makes it real easy to fight them because you don't have to block anything. You can just freeze them and slash them and freeze them and slash them.
Bringing the advanced tactics out here.
It's also really hard to beat one like without fighting the other one because as soon as you land enough hits on one, that one is like programmed to do nothing but run the heck away from you until you damage the other one enough to make that one run away instead.
Yeah. Yeah, they take turns. They tag team. So it's a pretty cool effect. Because you always kind of feel like you're in danger of the other one if you don't know that they're not going to come in and do anything. Like they really are strict about their turns.
True.
All right, let's see here. There's a couple secret rooms in this dungeon. There's a few Skulltulas, golden Skulltulas you can get, and there are Dodongos, which we haven't talked about yet, which are not the babies. These ones you have to hit their tail and get around them. Their fire breath they breathe, which is actually pretty big radius too. So be careful of that. Don't bring the Deku Shield again. Recap on that. And they explode even bigger radius than the little baby ones do.
And when you hit their tail, they do a spin attack immediately following like their when they take damage. And if you're too close to them, that'll hurt you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
They in their rage, they find another attack.
Aside from
They go full Beyblade.
most of the puzzles in this dungeon and enemies, even the puzzles themselves require bombs to solve the puzzle. If not bombs, the slingshot, there's a couple of those. So yeah, overall very power related again with even the puzzles this time.
Yeah, everything's kind of a power play. That's kind of the theme of this thing.
I actually really liked the puzzle, if you guys remember, the one where you put the bomb in the middle of the other bomb flowers. There's like 10 bomb flowers in like a line, and then it blows up and the stairs fall. It like triggers the stair explosion.
Oh, the massive staircase.
Makes it, big chain explosion.
That was one of my favorite puzzles, yeah.
It's nice, for sure.
This is another really good representation of power right there.
Mm-hmm.
To access the all-important second floor, you have to make like 20 plus explosions and knock the stairs out of the sky, kind of, basically.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big power move.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is there anything else in this dungeon that you guys wanted to cover before we get to the end of the dungeon?
Yeah.
There is.
Whoa. The room that I hate with a passion so much. Every time I hear the shishing, I'm like, this room, I hate the shishinging. You got to get up. You got to go through the little bit of you got to run through these small little narrow passageways around each corner. There's a new shishing, which is a four-sided blade of doom.
Let them know.
That is set. Yeah, we're letting them know. This thing is crazy. It hit me like 8 times, and I was like, nah, I hate this.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but once you finally get far enough into that room where you can like break open the wall, you have to grab a bomb flower and almost perfectly time it to explode a second after you throw it while it's still midair to blow open the wall to the next room. This room, I hate it. Can't stand it. I see this room, I'm like, let's just get it over with.
Sounds like this room is your personal trigger.
Can we skip this one? Give me one skip, please. One skip. I'll skip this room every time.
The water temple and all those later on, all this stuff, just this room right now. Get it out of here.
Yeah, those blade traps are so dumb.
So you just hate spike traps, man. You know, they actually classify blade traps as an enemy.
They do, and it's not that you can destroy them. I don't think. I've never found a way. But
you can't do anything to them.
And the game is so I don't even know what the word for it is. You get into the room, and I think Navi interrupts you, and she's like, "Oh, make sure you're Z targeting so you can see around corners because you never know what might be there." And I'm like, "I know what's there, and it's cheap.
It cheats.
Like you take a step out, and it just runs right at you and cuts you, and it's like, it's not okay. There's nothing okay about it.
Those things."
Yeah, I didn't want to play peekaboo with them, so I just ran around the corner, and every corner I ran around, my guy's like, ugh. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I just take the damage. There's no point, I feel like, in trying to actually avoid them all the time. I'm just like, find a way that I think is tight and has very few of them overall and just run.
Yeah.
Hope you don't take too much before you get to the end.
I don't remember how much damage they do, but I don't think it's a lot. It's like a quarter heart or maybe half a heart per hit.
Yeah, it's more just stressful, though, dealing with all that.
Yeah.
They're what made kids want to use the Game Shark codes on N64. Like, that room is what made kids want to use Game Shark.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how the Game Shark would help you with that, but yes, I agree.
Oh, you cheat, you run through it.
Gotcha. Game Shark did make you run faster back then. I don't want to get into all that, but I had a action replay, and it had some serious codes for this game. But yeah. Anyway. The only other thing I would say is the entryway towards the boss. You drop bombs into the eyes of the giant skull at the top of the room. They light up red when the eyes glow red, right? I always fall into the second one. Like the first one, drop a bomb down in, fine, blows up, eye turns red, great. Jump across the little gap that you drop the bomb through. Go to drop a bomb into the other one, and somehow I always manage to slip through the hole, and Link falls directly into the eye, and so you're just standing in the eye cavity, and I'm like, all right, fine. And I
never knew that.
Grab my bomb and just like set it down in the eye and then take a step outside, let it blow up, and it works, opens the eye, we're all good. So
I did the opposite, and I put the bomb down on the bridge in front of me instead of dropping it into the eye and blew myself up.
All right. Sounds like a good day.
Nice.
Is that the only careful one here?
I guess.
I don't know. I thought I was being careful, but you fall and it's like, well, I guess this is my life now. And, I mean, it all works out in the end.
All right. Well, we walk through that mouth that we just opened up, right? And we get to the infernal dinosaur, King Dodongo.
Yeah. There's a couple other rooms, but yep, infernal dinosaur. Right?
Yeah, there's like a little block puzzle right before it, but it's unimportant.
Nah. You don't need to know about that.
Oh, good.
So this big boy.
And we walk into this square room.
No, I was just going to say, this big boy.
Yeah, go off.
I remember used to bother me so much when I played this game previously. Like, for some reason, this dungeon is my kryptonite. Like, I can go off on dungeons in the Spirit Temple and the Shadow Temple. I'm fine. This dungeon as a kid, I don't know why it was my kryptonite. It took me a while to beat this guy. And I think it might have been because I had the Deku shield. I don't know. But I came into this with the Hylian shield. And I found the easiest way to beat this guy is just to crouch like a turtle. And he can't do anything to you at all. The Hylian shield blocks all incoming damage during his rolls. And knowing that, like, he just rolled right on by me, turned around, and then tried to breathe his fire breath at me. The trick to beating this guy is when he opens his mouth, you want to actually throw a bomb in there. He like swallows it. It's like, this tastes funny. And then boom, go in for the damage, do some jump strikes, attack him when he's in that vulnerable state.
Yeah. I think you can only hit him once and then he immediately stands back up.
Oh, is it once?
Yeah. Yeah, he only takes one hit.
Okay. Well, yeah, get that jump strike in then, and
you only have to do it 3 times.
Just repeat the process. And the Hylian shield technique with the turtle, I'm just saying, I don't know if it's like an actual tactic for this guy, but like it was the easiest way I thought to beat him is the turtle tech.
Yeah, if you stand, there's a little incline that goes right before you get to the lava in the room.
Yep, that's what I did.
If you stand right on that incline, he'll roll right past you.
Yep.
And I think even the fire misses you if you're standing there. You're basically like in the safe zone if you're standing there. But yeah, he's a lot more intimidating than like by looks than he is by his actual actions. His, like you said, like his roll, you can just crouch and be done with it. Like it doesn't do anything. It is funny to see how many times he hits your shield as he goes by. I feel like a lot of the damage in these games is programmed just to just hit a bunch of tiny times, and like if you get hit once, Link gets sent flying, and that's how you don't get hit more than once or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, it does exactly what you just described. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, so the attack would have a hurt box, and then every second that the attack is still going, or every frame it probably is that the attack is still going, that it's touching Link, it'll hit him, or it'll ting your shield if you're blocking.
Right. So about 20 times a second.
I was going to say, also, if you guys run out of bombs, don't fret, don't panic, because there are bomb flowers. There are special crops in this room for you to use against him. So just don't panic if you run out.
Right.
I don't even think I saw them.
Yeah.
They're in the corners of the room.
Yeah, they're around. So you beat this guy, and he tries to roll one last time, ends up rolling into the lava.
In one of the most brutal deaths.
Right, and then the lava solidifies with his head still sticking out of it, but he's dead. It's not like he's trapped there alive. Like he's done. Leaves behind his heart piece, and you make your way out. And when you get out, you get teleported out to the front of the dungeon, like you always do. And then Darunia comes flying in from above because I guess he came from the city and he decided to take the shortcut. Kind of smashes right next to you and congratulates you on your win. Says it must have been an epic, or it'll make an epic story, and kind of he literally beats his chest like a silverback. Because he's that kind of guy. He's just like Mr. Muscle, right? So Yeah, I mean, he just restates all this trouble must have been caused by that Gerudo thief Ganondorf. He said, "Give me the spiritual stone, only then will I open the cave for you. But you risked your life to help us out. So I'm like he basically gives you this spiritual stone as a thank you. I mean, he told you beforehand that if you were able to clear out all the problems that the Gorons were having, that he would give you anything, including the spiritual stone. But like, yeah, he actually does. And when he gives it to you, he basically says like, now you're one of our sworn brothers, right? Couple other Gorons come down. And he's like, let's give our sworn brother, like, let's give our new brother a big Goron hug. And Link kind of screams and runs away at the thought of what a Goron hug would feel like. So yeah, pretty good stuff. So after this, I mean, you can go back to the city. You can do some of the other stuff that would be a lot easier with a bomb bag. You can go up to the fairy fountain, which is a recommended thing, I would say. That's how you get your magical spin attack. It's like Link's special move. Not that you need that for anything in this game, but it is convenient in a couple places. Yeah, what did you guys end up doing?
You do have to sit through a speech with A4NB4Y when you do go up there, though. But actually, first thing I did with the bomb bag was blow up the unit of a Goron rolling around. But the second thing that I did was I remember the rock on my way to the courtyard in Zelda's castle. So I actually went up that little path through the town, and I remember the rock there. I blew up that rock. There's another fairy fountain there, guys. And that one gives you a magical power called Din's Fire. The power one.
Yeah. And that one, there actually is a hard stop later in the game, I'm pretty sure, if you don't have it.
Yeah, you need it.
Yeah.
So it's important. It's important to get at some point. I usually get it right away. I actually go up the mountain, get the spin attack, ride Gabora back down the mountain because he'll do that.
Best cutscene almost too.
He lands you right on top of Impa's house actually. So you can try to get that heart piece from the cow if you fall right onto like the little patio there. I always don't. I always overshoot it and fall into the cuckoo pen, and then I curse Gabora for dropping me in a place that I know I can't handle. She just put me right on the patio. And then, I usually have to circle back once you get another item later in the game that'll let you get up there without him. Because you could, I'm pretty sure, climb the mountain again for another ride, but I don't have the patience for that.
Nah.
Yeah, and then I go right over to the other fairy fountain. It's like my very next course of action is like, all right, second fairy fountain, here we go. So I usually have those two right in a row in my gameplay whenever I play the game.
After I beat Dodongo, the only thing I really did was go also blow up the unit to get my big bomb bag. That's pretty much all I've done since I beat it. But there is, I know we're past it now, but there's a small distinction I want to make between the death of the first two bosses. In that when you beat Goma, and Goma is referred to as a curse that was placed on the Deku tree by Ganondorf, the entirety of Goma burns up into nothingness when you defeat her. But this Goron actually remains for, I mean, I don't really know how long, but indefinitely, I guess, and his corpse will always be sticking out of that pit of lava that's now hardened. So Ganondorf didn't create this Dodongo like he created Goma as a curse. I don't know if he even had a hand in putting the Dodongos there. All we really know is that he sealed it off.
So how we were talking before, we said they were ancient dinosaur that isn't around anymore. And we were kind of talking on the topic about, is Ganondorf a necromancer? Does he bring things back from the dead? Because, like we said, these things weren't around. They just was as a recent development.
Yeah, they're called ancient creatures a couple times, and I think even, what was the name of the full name of the Dodongo boss?
The Infernal Dinosaur.
Infernal Dinosaur. Yeah, So, there's a couple hints that they're old. I almost wonder if like Dodongo's cavern has the most nutritious and delicious rocks because they're actually eating fossils of these things. Because it seems like they're an ancient creature. They're something that is known to have been around at one point, but isn't supposed to be here now. And they all appeared one day. So it definitely seems like this is another one of Ganondorf's powers. But like between this and the Stall Children and
The curse.
I don't know. I mean, if you want to try to contribute like the Gibdos and the Redeads to him, I mean, that would be another example. It seems like there are a lot of things that should be dead that just aren't. And a lot of that has to do with the direction of Ganondorf.
Yeah, and either he's a necromancer shaman, or maybe these things were around deep in the earth, and maybe he stirred them up and, got them riled up. And that's why they're back, maybe like there's...
Like he placed a fraction of the essence of the Triforce of Power within them to bring them life again or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have that yet, but he gets it at some point.
He placed a fraction of something in it.
Oh, I thought he did.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't get the Triforce until everybody does, and that's later in the game.
So he's OP. I always thought the only reason he was able to do all the stuff he did was because he already had the Triforce of Power, but he's able to just throw curses on millennia-old trees, just like...
Yeah, he's a shaman, necromancer, druid thing.
It's a kind of a good lead into one of the things I did want to talk about for this episode. Ganondorf has some serious game, man. He is the king of evil, king of thieves, and he knows what he's doing. I guess like when I think about it, we always try to talk about how each place has their own, like has their color, has their attribute, right? But even beyond that, I think Ganondorf he's a strategist. Like with the Deku Tree, right? Deku Tree, I mean, if you want to get into it, I mean, Deku Tree actually talks about himself having power, but not enough. I mean, I think that he's a mad old tree, so he's wise, right? So I don't know if you could really speak to his courage, but you should be able to, because that's his color scheme. Kokiri Forest is kind of a weird place where the color scheme doesn't work the way it should, because it's all green, but the courage there comes elsewhere. And I think that's between Link and Saria. They're the two courageous characters of that area. And the reason I say that is because Saria is, she goes to the Sacred Forest Meadow, which means that she would have had to have passed through all the scrubs to get there. And the Wolfos, really. Like she ran through, snuck through, whatever, but she goes there regularly, even though it's kind of riddled with creatures. And besides that, outside of her house is a bunch of overgrown green plants. And it's kind of a weird, I'm kind of taking this out of order right now, but the Deku Tree is like this, he's positioned by himself most of the time. He is this, character of providence of the forest. He's a guardian over the Kokiri, but Ganondorf isn't interested in the Kokiri. He doesn't care about them. He knows that the spiritual stone is out here and that it's more than likely with the tree. So he takes it to the tree mano a mano, right? Like he goes up to the tree. He's like, hey, basically give me the stone. Tree says no. He's like, all right, well then go ahead and die. Like I'll come back for it. Like, right.
He doesn't just set the tree on fire. He doesn't kill the tree. He makes him suffer.
Oh yeah, no.
He makes the tree suffer slowly.
He does a lot of leveraging by means of like torture and death, I guess. So that's kind of his strategy with the tree. Is like, I'm gonna curse you. Give me the stone. I'll lift the curse. If not, you're just gonna die. Like, and that's the whole deal.
It almost seems like this man, it just occurred to me now, but this man doesn't necessarily go straight into killing as a means of getting what he wants.
Right.
Like with the Gorons. So they're powerful, right? He wants to take them out of the picture, so eventually the Gorons can't stop him. What does he do? He stops them from being able to eat. He knows that they like those rocks, so he tries to slowly make them weaker by not getting the most nutritious rocks. Same with the tree. So it's like he's playing mind games with the people of Hyrule.
Yeah, and I think there's some reasons for that. Like, I think part of his strategy is, if I just straight up kill this tree, I mean, who knows where that rock is actually hidden? Like, I just know that he would be the one to have it because this is his forest. At least he knows where it is, So either he's going to give it to me or I'm going to have to search for it. I don't want to search for it. I just want it. And I think that's part of why he curses the tree, so that there's some time for that rather than just outright killing him. So then you get the kingdom, which we've kind of called out for being self-absorbed. for kind of keeping up appearances, for being kind of vain, being
And blissful.
Straight out, like he just goes there and plays politics. Like he's there and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna swear my allegiance to the king. And that's kind of setting up for, like, he knows that the Triforce itself is hidden in their temple, right? Like he needs to stay close to that, make sure nobody else gets it, make sure that, like, if that door opens, that he's right there. So he's playing the nice guy to the king. Like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, we're definitely allies. When really his whole purpose for being there, he's getting on good terms with the king, right? Like that's his strategy there, is to just like present himself as not being the king of evil. Like he's a friend, right? Like he's there to help somehow, but that's not his real goal at all. Because I don't think he sees the king as a threat. The king doesn't have any of the gems. He's just like, you know what? I'm going to be here so that when the time comes, when the time is right, it'll be that much easier for me to take over because I'll already have all the ins I need. With the Gorons, it's a siege, right? Like that's it. It's siege tactics. Mm-hmm. Like they're a powerful race. He's a powerful guy clearly, but they also have their own power, which I think is why he doesn't just take them on head to head. Like he's like, no, like that's foolish. Why would I do that when I can just cut out their food supply? And he knows that they're stubborn. Like they won't eat if they don't have the best thing. And it's messed up because, like, normally with a siege, right? Like you think of a siege and it's like a big walled city. They just close all their gates and they're like, oh man, like we're not going to fight you. We're going to close up, shut up shop. You can't get in here. You can't kill us, whatever. So what do? You cut off their food supply, and that way they starve from the inside out.
It's almost like he used ancient Japanese tactics. If you read into like any ancient Japanese tactics of war, two of the main tactics they would use to deteriorate the enemy was poison the water supply and poison the food supply. And that's basically what he did with that.
Yeah, it's not even, poisoning is one thing. He just straight up cut it off, but
yeah.
What's weird to me is that the way he cut it out, like I was talking about the walled cities, like if you cut off food supply to a walled city, you just gotta cover the entrances and exits, right? Like you just gotta cover the gates, and pretty much no one can get in or out to get food in or out. With the Gorons, they don't actually have a walled city. They live inside of a mountain, but his way of cutting off their food supply was just to take away their first option, like their favorite food, which is messed up because what that would imply is that the walls, that like the thing that's keeping them from like getting in or out is just their own stubbornness. Like he knows, like, okay, these people, they're, literally rock-headed, right? Like they're not going to give up their favorite thing. So I'm just going to cut that off, and that's going to be a siege. Like that's enough to mess him up. So he's a smart guy. Like he knows each person's weakness. Like he knows that the king is like just trying to save face right now. It's just playing the game.
He's playing the long game.
He knows what the Deku Tree would have responded to. He can't. He's kind of helpless that he can't move anyway, but like just the way he approaches each thing is different. I guess the point I was making about the whole Kokiri Village thing, like, yeah, it's weird the way that one plays out with the whole color scheme thing, but.
Well, you were just going with, green, spiritual, courage. Link is courageous. The Deku Tree, green is thought of as sage, wisdom.
Yeah,
and then there's red, power.
He, you could call the Deku Tree courageous if like he didn't fear death, right? Like that wasn't, at no point did he make decisions based on that. Like he knew he was going to die, but he's like, you know what? Like that's actually not really what's important right now. What's important is that Link is prepared to do what he needs to. But I don't know why he didn't fear death. Like I don't know, I don't know what his actual reasoning for that was.
He's old, man.
He's lived a long time.
He's been around for as long as he is. I'm sure you're probably like, whatever. Yeah,
maybe he knew that he would have a legacy, and that was more like what helped him with that. Because, like it's not, the force doesn't end with him. And I think that rings true later on. And I'm sure that's something that he knew was going to happen. And that's probably part of why he was like, he didn't fear it in the moment.
Whatevs.
But yeah, I feel like with the Kokiri Forest, in terms of our color schemes, like the thing you got to understand with them is that they have characters that exemplify each of the power, wisdom, and courage. They don't have an entire race that attributes to any of them. The Kokiri as a whole are not powerful. They're not courageous. They're not wise.
Nah.
They're just children. And they're all learning still, right? Like they haven't really become any of those things. But you have Link and Saria, who are both courageous, and I think that's exemplified by, Link is, obviously that's just his character in the game. Saria frequents the Lost Woods, goes through them on the regular, has the green kind of signifying outside of her house, like, hey, this person is so courageous that weeds are literally springing up around their house. Mito is the character of power, and he has a circle of rocks in front of his house to kind of show that. And that's like his whole deal. Like, he's not like, he just thinks he's the boss of the forest and kind of like flexes his power on the other Kokiri. So like, it makes sense. Wisdom's a little bit trickier. I think it's supposed to be the twins, because the river goes right by their house. It goes between their house and the shop. And they teach you about rupees and the cost of, like, the value of the different colors. And in the shop you can buy the shield, which is a wise thing. And one of the twins is actually at the shop and I think makes a recommendation or something like that. So I think the twins are supposed to be the character of wisdom, because I don't think it's the shop owner, because the shop owner has a counter that's too tall for him. He's kind of like jumping up and down trying to sell you trees, right? so I don't think he's necessarily like supposed to be the wise character, but the point of wisdom is still there. Like being wise with your finances, being wise by buying the thing that's going to protect you. So yeah, everything's represented there, but it's not, Kokiri Forest itself is not the land of courage. It's like everything there is kind of, because it's an introduction to the game, I think they wanted to include a character of each thing, you know. At some point, I've been wanting to circle back to that, but
sure.
This seemed like the best time, because it's actually like the closest we get to coming back, by going to the Lost Woods and actually seeing what Saria does with her spare time. Yeah.
Yeah, I never really thought about it, but that makes a lot of sense. Like the whole Mito representing power because the rocks around his house, and him being one of the more straightforward and powerful, like, characteristic wise, and like his character himself. And Saria with the green around her house and the courageousness to go into the woods that everybody is deathly afraid of, and even the water around the house of, like, the tutorial area where you learn a lot of stuff, and like the shop, like you talked about. I didn't really think about it, but I agree, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that it's subtext. Like, it's definitely, like, at no point does the game try to, like, tell you that again. Like, it's like you just have to look at the map and be like, okay, where are the symbols that you find? Like, because, you know, when you go through the goddess story of, like, the creation, they literally show these things. And then if you look around the town, you can see, okay, where is there the highest concentration of rocks? Oh, well, it's by this bossy kid, you know, like, where's the highest concentration of weeds? Okay, it's this girl who thinks that the bossy kid is a bum and, like, goes out into the forest, you know.
What a bum.
And then, yeah, I mean, yeah, so she's not afraid of Mito, you know, and then the river goes around the shop and the house of twins. So it's I mean, it all kind of just is like little pointers about what it is, like, about the character traits of the different people, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Like, it sets up the beginnings of the story, like what themes you're going to be seeing throughout the story. And I actually wanted to touch on because you had mentioned the stones in that, and if you guys got a good look at the spiritual stone, the green one for courage, it sort of looks like a flower bud. Like, it looks like the top of the flower bud, and then there's sort of like a curved stem coming down. It's like kind of viney.
Mm-hmm.
We actually see the new gem we just got, the Goron's ruby. The ruby itself actually looks like a flower that's in bloom. It kind of like a tulip. And so we have this theme, and I'm not going to say what the next one we get looks like, but this just confirms my suspicions that these stones we're gathering is like a flower slowly starting to bloom.
I've never realized that, but that's kind of cool.
And next time you guys look at these stones, like look at a picture of all of them together, and you'll sort of see what I'm trying to get at. Because the red one we just got sort of looks like a dissected flower in half that's like blooming.
Yeah. Like I said, I never noticed that, but that's actually a really cool detail.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Like, it absolutely does look like that. I didn't realize that's what they were doing, though.
Yeah. I don't know if it could not be what they were doing, but I saw it and I was like, this gotta be it. This gotta be it.
One of the things that I started listening to some other like groups and people online, what they've kind of said about this game. And one of the things I wasn't expecting to hear is that Miyamoto, he's not really a storyteller. Like, he loves gameplay. Like, he's all about making a game a fun game to play. But not so much about the story. Like, there was another guy on these, and I wish I could remember his name right now, who was all about story. Like, he was kind of like the like went to school for cinematography and like basically visual storytelling, right? Like he was all about it. And so a lot of the story in these games isn't driven by the main director, is actually like kind of hindered in some cases. So a lot of it is like this. A lot of it is things you have to kind of see visually. A lot of it is things you have to read into to get the full story, because it's just not something that was of universal interest when they made this game.
Like the way it was written, basically.
Yeah, like it wasn't like some of the people on the production team were very much into story and some were very much not. So what you get is a lot of like implied story or things you really need to like observe and catch on to understand or to gather what's going on. Like, there's a lot more symbolism in this game than is stated by the characters.
It's crazy that you mentioned that, because I remember listening to an interview by Shigeru Miyamoto himself, and he actually got the idea of Zelda. And this isn't like Ocarina of Time, this is just original Zelda. Obviously he was able to go more in depth with his thoughts with Ocarina of Time as being the first 3D game, but he got the idea from Zelda itself as a child. Where he lived in Japan, I guess, was very country, very open. He was far from a city, and he was able to explore caves. I guess there was a few caves over there in the rice paddy fields by his house. There was waterfalls. There was hills and like, big hills over there with the rice paddy fields. And so there was just a lot of different environments that he was able to take in as a child and explore. And he said that when he was making Zelda, that's like where the environments came from, was his own childhood. So it's not really necessarily a story point, but it's more visually why Zelda is so, when you see a Zelda game, instantly that environment is Zelda, because it's so visually storytelling.
Nice.
So that's coming from himself. Like, he made these games based on his childhood and what he used to explore. And you see that.
Yeah, I've also heard that.
Parallel to, we haven't gotten to Zora's Domain yet, but there's a waterfall there. We see Lake Hylia. We see Death Mountain, the forest. So yeah, it's just a bunch of things that he basically did as a child that he put into the game.
Nice. Art imitates life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good deal.
All right. Well, we covered the Death Mountain. We covered the cavern, the forest, the story points. You guys can go back.
A little bit of the background of Ganondorf.
Oh, yeah. We did get into that. And we got the masks done. You guys can do that. And actually, now, there was one point I wanted to bring up. Now that we got the bomb bag, we did mention the Bombachu game. You can go back and do that. I hate it personally. I know Fonz probably hates it. I don't know how you feel, Cam, but it is an option you can go do.
I'm getting used to it the more. I mean, like, after the last time I played it, it seemed okay. It was not okay the first time I played it recently, but after getting some practice, it's okay now.
I'm definitely not really a fan of Bombachus, but once I play the game once or twice, I'll probably get back in the hang of it and be like, yeah, these things are alright.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that covers it for today then. I think next time we get together, we're going to be covering Zora's Domain, and inside, what is it called? Like it's Lord Jabu Jabu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just Jabu Jabu? Anyway, it's
I think he's Lord.
inside that guy, Jabu Jabu's belly. That's our next kind of dungeon. So if you have any comments, thoughts, personal stories about that domain or that dungeon, definitely write in. Let us know. You can again contact us at A for no, B for yes. That's A the number 4 no, B the number 4 yes. On any of our social medias, or A for no, B for yes at gmail.com. Links will be in the description. So yeah, go ahead and reach out.
Yeah, and thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you guys, and we would love to hear everything that you guys have to say. So I think that pretty much covers it. Cam?
Did you get all that?